Hey, SEC stuff. I'm Emma here with Sierra, and we are talking about what will be game day this week, Florida versus Miami. Now, Florida is currently 1-2, 0-1 in SEC play. They just came off that 20-10 loss. People are calling for Billy Napier to be fired. We just fired two head coaches, so why not Billy Napier too? Miami is 3-0, currently ranked fourth, and they are off to a dominant start. How do you feel about this game, Sierra?
This is always an interesting rivalry to me because they used to play every year until the SEC expanded a little bit more. And then it was when Arkansas, South Carolina joined the SEC, and athletic directors were like, okay, we don't need to play another tough team every single year. And so, hence the Miami UF rivalry somewhat died, but they try to bring it back every few years. And it's always a pretty crazy game because in the state of Florida, there's really three teams that people root for. Sorry to you UCF fans, this is how it is. But Florida State, because I grew up in Orlando, so people always ask, oh, are you Florida State fan? But if you go down to South Florida, you're either a Florida State, or Miami fan. And there's lots of Miami fans sprinkled throughout the state, but it's mostly in South Florida. Hence why this is going to be a crazy game environment. I usually don't say that about Miami just because they don't play on campus. Their stadium is in Miami Gardens, and the University of Miami is in Coral Gables. In case you didn't know and you watch Alex Earl's TikToks, she never really went to the games when she was in college because the stadium was so far. So it's usually not a crazy environment, but when Miami does well, the fans show out. And that is the city of Miami's team, of course, next to the Dolphins, or rather, they both play in the same stadium. So this is going to be a crazy one for Miami. And of course, like just not even just on the field, but just outside the field. A lot of these players on Florida's team are also from the South Florida area. And some of these guys have been playing with the guys who play on the Hurricanes for a very long time since they were little kids in Pee Wee football. And if you don't know anything about football in South Florida, it is absolutely crazy. They are intense and they don't mess around. And Florida cannot mess around with this Miami team. So I'm interested to see how they do. I really do wish we did play this rivalry more, but it is what it is. But Miami has had their downfalls too, but they seem like they're coming back.
Oh yeah, I mean Miami's looking like a true playoff contender. They had again that win over Notre Dame, and Notre Dame just lost also to A&M, but these were very small margins. They were hard-fought battles. So I'm thinking they can make the playoffs. Florida is their next. It would have been their next prove it test, but now we're seeing what Florida is in a sense. So I am thinking that with the rest of their schedule, we thought this was going to be a hard test for Miami, but Miami's looking very strong with Carson Beck now at the helm, who was that former Georgia Bulldog. And so it's really interesting to see what he is doing down there and how he's making an impact immediately in the ACC playing at Miami. He could honestly be up for Heisman talks. I know everyone was saying DJ Lagway, everyone's saying Garrett Nussmeiser, but maybe it could be Carson Beck at this point. But Florida is currently reeling and they are desperate and they need to win this game. So Miami just can't fall into the trap. They just have to be consistent like they have been, be strong like they have been, and don't let Florida take over because Florida really needs it at this moment in time.
Yeah, Florida just lost to LSU on the road, and DJ Lagway threw 5 interceptions. I don't know how you do that. I have never seen a college football game. I don't think that someone has thrown 5 interceptions. So Florida's not looking great right now, and then they enter the gauntlet of that really brutal schedule, but they need to just clean up those mistakes like they have in the past. The penalties still weren't great. They had a touchdown that was called back, rushing touchdown from star running back Jaden Baugh. That was called back against LSU, which was not great because Florida really could have used that. And then in the game before against South Florida, which this might be confusing for y'all who aren't Floridians. Let me just preface this. When I talk about South Florida, I mean the University of South Florida, even though it's not located in South Florida, it's in Tampa. University of Miami is in South Florida. Miami is considered South Florida. Okay, so both of those schools also played the University of South Florida this year, and South Florida beat the Gators. That was the game where Florida just couldn't get it going, and they had terrible penalties. Someone spitting on someone. I think I just spit out doing that. Uh, but when Florida fans saw USF beat the Gators, it's like, okay, we don't need to be losing to this USF team. But it's like, okay, maybe they are that sneaky group of 5 playoff contender team that no one knows about yet. Wrong, because they went to Miami last week and got the crap knocked out of them. The Canes beat them 49-12. And Emma, you touched on Carson Beck. He had a great game, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns. But the one thing that does concern me is the interceptions. He had 2 of those. So Florida's really going to have to pressure Beck if they even need a chance.
Yeah, and I'm also looking at DJ Lagway, and if he does, I think even throw one interception early on, maybe look to Tremel Jones Jr. to steady the offense just to get something else out there on the field, and maybe that'll click better because obviously, from what we've seen, it hasn't been Lagway, and if Napier doesn't do anything to shake up the offense and really recenter this team, then I mean, he's looking at a pink slip and he's going to find himself in another state next year. But he has to figure something out and figure something out fast because it is not impossible at this moment in time for Florida to do something special this year, but it is hard. It was already hard at the beginning of the year, but things need to change immediately if they want to have any impact this season.
Yeah, like they're going to enter conference play with a bunch of losses under their belt already to teams they should not be losing to. And when it comes to Billy Napier and DJ Lagway, I don't know if this is just like a knee jerk reaction from me or something, but I also wanted to see Tremel Jones in the game. I know he's very young, so is Lagway, but Lagway is playing like a guy who hasn't played a ton of football. Last year, of course, he came in late because their quarterback then, Graham Mertz, went down with a knee injury, and so Lagway came in. Then he got hurt in the Georgia game of last year, hamstring problems. So then he wasn't completely healthy, but he made his way back, and Florida was able to pick up that momentum and beat Ole Miss, LSU, and Florida State. And then now this year, he missed a lot of spring practice and he missed a lot of fall camp because of injuries as well. So he's not playing confident right now, and that's what concerns me. And it's like, okay, if you don't want to play the backup quarterback, Tremel Jones, which, by the way, you need to have faith in all of your quarterbacks,
Correct.
the backups too. If they are recruited to come to the University of Florida, they need to be ready to play. And Napier needs to have these guys ready to play. However, if he wants to stick with Lagway, they need to feed the ball to Jaden Ball. They didn't do that much against LSU, but against USF, he had over 90 rushing yards, and he is just a bowling ball of an athlete. He came in last year as well because of the older guys that were also hurt, and he a little bit flew under the radar because everyone was talking about DJ Lagway. I'm like, Jaden Ball can ball. So I would like to see more of him if Florida again needs wants to get something going on offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It's not been unheard of. I mean, Nick Saban changed out Jalen Hurts for Tua, and then they won the national championship. So a younger player, a new inexperienced player under the big lights of wherever they're playing, it can happen. So it's like, why not now, especially when we know that this is not working? And obviously, the Gators defense has been decent. They've forced turnovers. They limited LSU. But without a pass rush, they had 0 sacks versus LSU. Carson Beck could really pick them apart this week. So there's a big urgency here to either fix it now or you're just going to continue to collapse. And it's kind of be like FSU last season where it just kept going and going and going. And where Mike Norvell had a little bit of legs to stand on because he was in playoff contention the year prior. Billy Napier does not. And so I'm looking at him. I think he has a 20-21 record right now at Florida. And it's just like, if you lose one more game, I think you should be out. And who would step up as head coach? I don't know. But something needs to change. This is too big of a program to falter like this. It's really sad. It's like when FSU faltered last year, it's like, no, these are big brands in college football. They should be making a statement, especially in this expanded playoff model.
Yeah, I made a TikTok today about coaches that I'd already like to see coach at the University of Florida, and I have,
Love it.
and these are big time names, and people were calling me delusional. They were saying Florida is not relevant enough to get these coaches. But the coaches I had was Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss,
Yep.
Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. He's pretty, so maybe that also helps. And Dan Lanning at Oregon. And people were like, "Oh my god, this game, these coaches are too big. They would never leave their programs to coach at Florida." I'm like, Do you guys hear yourselves? You guys are acting like the University of Florida is Northwest Florida State's blind. Like, I'm like, Florida has, out of all of the college football, like, Florida has won 2 national titles in this millennium alone, more than those other programs that those coaches are currently at. And also, there's no income tax in the state of Florida. That also helps. And you have arguably one of the most talented states. I touched on how competitive it is in South Florida alone when it comes to high school football. So those coaches have more of a recruiting hotbed than you do, no disrespect to Indiana or Oregon or Mississippi. They're right in your backyard. And that's why I'm thinking, like, okay, these other coaches, get it going, because Billy Napier was great as a hire for Gator fans, but a big critique that a lot of fans had were, well, he's never coached as a head coach at the Power 5 level, rather Power 4 level. And that's coming from Louisiana Lafayette. Like, yeah, great, you made noise in the Sun Belt, but we're the University of Florida. We don't need to take a chance on an up and coming coach. Now, I know we did that in basketball, but that worked out. And people were still kind of, who is this Todd Golden guy? I don't know, but it worked out.
Yeah, a coach I think that Florida could get would be Clark Lee of Vanderbilt, and you see what he's done with a team like Vanderbilt and has given them a winning mentality. They just beat South Carolina. They beat Alabama last year. They kept it close last year with a couple other big brands in college football, and that could be the answer you need is Clark Lee. And I definitely think he would come over to Florida. All respect to Vanderbilt, but he I think is trying to move up from Vanderbilt and go to another school. I even thought that if Kalen DeBoer doesn't work out, and I know Kalen's staying for a few more years, but if he doesn't work out, then Clark Lee could go and try there. Also, Georgia Tech's coach is another great example of a coach that's not at a huge program, but that's making the most of what they have and winning, beating Clemson, coming close to beating Georgia last year, could potentially beat Georgia this year. So these are all great coaches that could find themselves down at Florida, which is a great big name in college football. So it is really interesting to see who could come over because right now Billy Napier is not the answer. And I'll just go out and say it. And I think Miami should win this game outright, and they will cover the spread if they just control it in the trenches. So I'm not really seeing a Florida win. I think it's just going to keep going downhill, 3 straight losses, unfortunately.
I just don't see the fire from this team at all. Maybe, hopefully, maybe you guys will be able to clip this and chop it and show it if Florida blows out Miami, but I don't think they're going to do that.
They do that, we're happy.
I'm happy. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You see this right here. I am not a fair weather fan. So, so we'll see how this goes. Miami looks really good on offense. They've really cleaned things up on defense as well compared to last year. So they look like a contender in the ACC. We'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. And this is one of the teams at the start of the year that I was like, okay, they might lose this game, depending on how Miami was. But I didn't think like the USF. I thought they could stay competitive with LSU. And there's games on the line that I was like, oh, I think they can win that. I think despite how hard their schedule is. But now I'm just sitting here like, week to week, Florida, week to week, make the little things work each and every play, each and every drive, and we'll see where we are. But it's really sad based on how we thought they were going to come in, like you were talking about on the review episode of the LSU Florida game in the Every Any Given Saturday documentary on Netflix. It got you so hyped up. You got so excited about this team and what they should have been this year. And so far, it's just like, wah, wah. So we'll see. Yeah.
Not gonna lie, I cried watching the SEC Given Saturday document. I mean, there's a video of me on the internet crying when the Gators won the national championship in basketball,
Yeah.
bawling, crying. And so I think I started tearing up honestly on our show when I was thinking about the Every Given Saturday and how there was so much hope for this program and so much hope. It was after, if you guys didn't see our previous episode, but it was when the Gators, they beat somebody, I think it was LSU, and all the guys in the locker room were like, DJ Lagway. And then I was just like, we're so back. And then now we're back in the pits of Hades, I guess. So we'll see what happens with this Gator team. I'm just over it. I like over it.
Yeah. I'm friends with a lot of Clemson people, and they're done. They said, we're not winning. We're going to lose at least 4 games. Like, we're over it. Bama fans still have a little bit of hope They've been looking better. So I mean, like, there's a lot of fan bases right now that have they're like, okay, we know what this year is going to be like. All of our hopes and dreams are gone. Let's just enjoy and get to a bowl game.
Well, guys, what do you think of this matchup? What do you think of Billy Napier and this era as a whole? Should it end soon? Let us know in the comments. We'll see you next time.